Pokemon released more convergent species, this time something similar to the Generation 8 Poltchageist line in being Sinistcha. Convergent species are a framework of Pokemon that are similar to their counterpart, yet are different with different stats, move pool, typing, and potential design. An example being Toedscruel and Tentacruel from earlier this generation. That being besides the point, Sinistcha is a very unique Pokemon that has a great argument for its competitive viability perhaps. Its stats might not be as powerful as Poltergeist offensively, but defensively speaking and all around, Pokemon reinvested the base EV spread to make it more of a bulky Pokemon. Furthermore, Sinistcha received a pretty huge signature move of Matcha Gatcha. This is essentially a grass type Scald move that is 90% inaccurate and also helps heal itself up. While it can be inaccurate at times, this move is actually still pretty solid all around. And unlike Poltergeist, it isn't necessarily super weak physically defensively with its new EV spread. Poltergeist might have been hindered because of its physical defense, but Sinistcha with splits of 71, 106, and 80 thoroughly make it up for the lack of bulk all around for its Generation 8 counterpart unfortunately didn't have. Furthermore, Pokemon gifted this unique ability of hospitality to Sinistcha that is unfortunately pretty useless in singles, so its hidden ability of Heatproof will have to do. Heatproof isn't the worst ability as it helps against its own weakness of fire, but it isn't certainly the best. However, despite that, I don't see Sinistcha actually as a great Pokemon even in the OU metagame, and maybe not even UU compared to its counterpart. Sinistcha is a grass and ghost type, which offers more weaknesses than Poltergeist itself, as that Pokemon is just a pure ghost type. If anything, Pokemon just added more weaknesses to an already slow Pokemon on paper. Common weaknesses of ice, fire, flying, bug, poison, and on top of the same weaknesses of ghost and dark puts it in a weird situation. Mamoswine, Moltres, Kingambit, Dragapult, etc. These are all meta Pokemon that don't serve favorably towards Sinistcha matchup, and I only brought up a few Pokemon in the OU metagame that can take it out with ease without mentioning a whole list of Pokemon that could probably take it out with various other moves as well. Pokemon that have a ton of weaknesses in the metagame, however, and especially to a lot of Pokemon, makes it difficult to have a defensive presence as this Pokemon suggests it wants to be. This is a long-winded answer of saying terrestrialization will be its source of dependency rather than its own natural bulk and power, as Pokemon that have been depending on that in the past, like Iron Thorns, Wochien, etc., don't serve well in the main metagame because of how exploitable that can be. And listen, of course, there are Pokemon that are able to avoid this situation, but if you notice, Pokemon like Meowscarada can make it up for things like Protean and being pretty fast and a hard hitter. Sinistcha unfortunately doesn't attain a good natural speed stat and doesn't have a good god broken ability, thus it is Terra dependent Pokemon. While Terra Water, Terra Fighting, Terra Steel, or whatever the case may be might be great for it, it can also be a bit team constricting, especially if a defensive Pokemon like Sinistcha suggested should be needs to rely on Terra for it to maintain its good HP. Now listen, there is another grass and ghost Pokemon in Primogas, however this Pokemon has two things going for it that Sinistcha lacks in pretty good decent speed, and an extremely good ability in Wind Rider which only helps boost its attack and avoid key common moves of Hurricane, Heat Wave, etc. That is a way more useful ability than Heatproof, as it's able to put its shield around Primogas more so commonly than Sinistcha could, and it still has a decent speed alongside it to ensure it can be potent. Now while of course yes it wouldn't last in the power corrupt OU metagame, those characteristics let alone is what makes it great down in UU. Primogas also received a buff in Poltergeist, which is another topic for another day, but the point is Sinistcha doesn't have much to recover from its glaring issues it contains. But there might be one saving grace for Sinistcha, and before we even begin to talk about that, if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more competitive content just like this. It's free and it helps let me know you guys are receiving these videos well and want more videos just like this. As well as we are on the road to 10k subscribers, so join the before 10k gang. Other than that though, let's get back to the video. Poltchageist was a Pokemon earlier this generation for being ridiculously powerful on size band teams because of its Shell Smash, weak armor, terrestrialization gimmicks. Sinistcha seems like a Pokemon that could do the same thing. After all, it has to be Terra dependent, so why not make it offensively potent? I mean, that's how anyways Poltchageist became somewhat of a usable Pokemon. Maybe a set like Shell Smash, Matcha Gatcha, Store Power, and Shadow Ball could be an extremely powerful set for Sinistcha to abuse. Sure, it doesn't have weak armor to raise its speed, but Shell Smash is a viable option since it's rather bulky, so it can take maybe a hit or two as it sets up. However, I forgot to mention, Sinistcha actually can't be able to do any of that. Yeah, so Game Freak decided to not give this Pokemon Stored Power and Shell Smash. This is huge, and what really separates it from Poltergeist as a usable Pokemon, and arguably it might be worse than it. Your Shell Smash offers a way to boost its mediocre speed speed of 70 to something comparable in the metagame, which in theory, because of Matcha Gatcha and its move pool going for it, it could relatively be solid with it. Its bulk makes up for the lack of weak armor, and terrestrialization certainly helps along the way. But all that goes down the drain with this Pokemon. Grass Ghost, slow, and doesn't have a speed boosting move to take advantage of now puts it in a bind of why use this thing at all. Sure, defensively it might seem awesome alongside Matcha Gatcha, but let's take for example Amoonguss. It is a grass and poison typing, which is already way better than Grass and Ghost with a more defensive ability of Regenerator. As a grass defensive Pokemon, Amoonguss has way more things going for it than Sinistcha could ever, as it isn't even tear dependent as well. Spore as well makes it for the replacement of Matcha Gatcha, as Sleep is a way more powerful status move in the game than Burn, although Burn is still pretty good because of the amount of physical attackers that are in the OU tier. But what about offensively? Nothing offensively makes it more appealing than a grass-type Pokemon like Ogerpon or Meowscarada, who excel at being a fast grass-type attacker, which is much better than Sinistcha could ever be, alongside various unique tools it has like Protein or maybe Embody Aspect and the mask that Ogerpon can wear. They can dish out hard-hitting damage more reliably than Sinistcha firing off a comparable move to start off with. With nothing to even boost its speed, what value does it gain over those Pokemon in a holistic sense? My point is Sinistcha has the tools to be a good offensive or defensive Pokemon if it so chooses to be, don't get me wrong. Its move pool and stats make it out to be like that, but a glaring defensive typing and a lacking of speed with an alright ability at best puts it in a difficult position to call it a usable OU mainstay Pokemon or even a UU Pokemon. Strength Sap and Matcha Gatcha might be really good to use, but there are countless Pokemon that can work around that move. Matcha Gatcha, after all, is a grass type move and not a water type move, which grass can be walled pretty easily with things like Dragon or Poison, etc. Sinistcha really struggles a lot with the current Pokemon metagame existing at the moment. Furthermore, in comparison to Poltchageist itself, at least that Pokemon can boost its stats and take advantage of the positives it has. While Combine and Nasty Plot are pretty good moves for Sinistcha, it doesn't come close to the utility boost Shell Smash offers alongside its immense power it could offer. Sure, I mean, it could do something gimmicky with Trick Room, but again, Trick Room in singles is not a popular archetype because of its turn usage. I'm not trying to hate on Sinistcha, but compared to the leaks till now, I was low-key disappointed we got a Pokemon as unique of a convergent species that it is, and that it will struggle in the OU metagame and potentially it will have more problems than its counterpart of Poltchageist. It might be used a bit here and there, but when the dust settles and the OU metagame is more stable, I don't even expect this thing to be around one bit. But what do you guys think of Sinistcha? Am I overreacting, or does it actually not have a place in the Pokemon metagame? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts, and thank you to my members for their continued support over on Patreon and here on YouTube. If you guys wish to support me even further, the links are down below. And lastly, be sure to join the Chompy Discord for an awesome community. It's free and the link is in the description. If you've made it this far, comment down below the ghost emoji, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching as always.